The iPad was not having it, but my cell phone should be good. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera around. So as you enter the bus, you can see we have some books on display. You'll see a lot of empty shelves right now, and that's because during COVID, we took the downtime to take everything off the book. There had to have been probably like 2,000 books and DVDs in total. And we did a deep cleaning of the entire bus. Okay, I'm going to start from the front of the bus. This is where we drive the bus. This is our little station, like our library setup. We can check out books to people no matter where we are. We've got this mobile hotspot for internet. So the whole point of our bookmobile is to go to it's outreach. We go to the underserved communities here in Marin. We go way out towards the ocean to communities that are pretty far away from a brick and mortar library, and so they can come on the bus. Not right now. We're not at the point yet where we can have people back on the bus, but hopefully early next year. Anyway, starting at the front of the bus, kind of start with adult material towards the front, and then it progressively gets younger in age as we move down. We got DVDs, we've got large type. These are playaways, kind of like an MP3 player with headphones inside. Adults and children like those a lot. In the middle of the bus, right when you walk on, we've got an equity shelf that we just created. Casey, I believe you said you guys read this book. Is that right?
Yes, Kiara shared the class, so we read
nice.
it together. Yeah, it's a great one.
That's always been a favorite of mine as well. And then as you keep moving down the bus, we've got Easy Chapter. These books are good for middle school or even like 4th and 5th grade. They're not quite novels yet, but easier to digest. And then you got J fiction, J standing for juvenile. And then I put some fantasy books on display, some children's fantasy books, because I know you guys are looking at that right now. This one I like a lot, Julia's House for Lost Creatures, Super Jumbo. We've got Batman's Dark Secret, Yeti and the Bird. Yeti looks like he's playing some type of ukulele. Casey, do you remember this one? The Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Yes, and actually that's a great, we were talking about folk tales. That one could also be considered a folk tale.
It's a double dipper. Yeah, it's folktale and it's also got some fantasy elements to it, as a lot of folktales do. So then as we move down the bus, we got more children's books here. We got a couple other fantasy books, 12 Dancing Unicorns, Very Little Cinderella. I haven't read that one yet, but I will. And then we've got like a color-coded system. We call it the grading system. Each different color is a different subject or different concept for books for kids. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. And then this whole back section is going to be Spanish material and also bilingual. We've got bilingual toddler books at the bottom for the kids. We've got this nice bench here, and before COVID, I would sit on this bench with the kids and we would do story time. Now we do story time outside, socially distanced, and we all wear masks. That's the world we're in right now. And then back here, we got a microwave and fridge. which is really convenient because we usually leave in the morning and then we're out all day, and we don't get back until 4 o'clock. So we'd have food on the road. What else can I tell you about this bus? It's been a joy. I had no idea that this was my dream. I didn't know I was going to be a bookmobile librarian someday, but I'm very excited about it, and I'm actually going to go back to school and study more library sciences, I think next year, because I'm just in love with this, the whole concept, just, bringing books and knowledge to as many people as possible, people who don't have as much access to their local libraries.
We
Yeah,
have some
any
questions.
questions for me? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Maybe you can take a seat so we can share. Kiara asks, does the mobile library still exist in today's society? So you started to talk a little bit about the differences before COVID, how the bookmobile has operated, and how it's changed. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does still exist, thankfully. What we've been doing is, like I said, people can't come on the bus right now because it's too tight of an enclosed area. It's not deemed safe. But what we do is we bring a table with us everywhere we go, and we set the table up outside the bookmobile, and then we can bring books out, folks, to look at with their eyes. They can't touch them, and then if they want them, we can check them out right then and there. But also, one of our main services is we kind of act like a delivery service. Just like you would request a book at your local branch, you can request a book from the bookmobile, and we'll put it in a paper bag for you, and we call that curbside pickup. We put your name on it, we staple the bag together, and then we put it outside on the table, and you kind of sign up for a time. You're like, oh, I'm going to be there at 12:30, and the bus is in there for 15 minutes already, or what have you, and then we give you your little baggie full of books and DVDs and CDs. And we recently attended a nationwide conference of bookmobiles, and my boss and I were very impressed, just amazed at how many bookmobiles there are across the country. Sounds like one of your students had been on a bookmobile before. I'm curious if anyone else knows of a bookmobile near them.
Stefan, you
we
said
definitely still exist.
Ferguson, is that right?
Yeah, the bookmobile that does the Stanford area. I'm not pretty sure if they do the whole Fairfield area, but I'm pretty sure they do the Stanford area, like 100%. That's the Ferguson Library that's sitting smack dab in the middle of Stanford.
That's great.
Very cool.
What's interesting is there's so many different types of bookmobiles. Ours is on the bigger side. This is practically an RV that you could live in almost if there was a bed. There's a lot smaller versions, and I'm looking forward to getting a new one in like 3 or 4 years, preferably something that maybe is a hybrid, half electric vehicle, because this massive bus guzzles diesel gas. So, but we love this bus. But
do you know how many bookmobiles there are roughly across the nation?
Yeah, so no, I don't. That was a question that came up in this virtual conference that we just attended, and they didn't know. Nobody had a really good idea of how many there are. That's a project that we're actually all. I'm a part of this nationwide project now, trying to figure that out. We're trying to reach out to every county in the country and get kind of a grand total and just kind of see where we're at, just to get that network even tighter. It's really good to have as many contacts as you can when it comes to mobile outreach, as we call it, just because everybody does it differently, and it's to get different methods from different people.
I have a source here, and I don't know. It's from 2018, so I don't know how up to date it is. How things have changed since then. But it says the number of bookmobiles operating in the United States fell by more than a third in the last 25 years to about 650 in 2015. And that's something that was updated in from pewtrust.org research and analysis, published in 2018. So I don't know how accurate that number is today, but that was what I'm seeing here. I'll post this link in the comments, our chat, if anyone wants to take a look at that. There's an interactive map that shows you like a rough estimate of where these bookmobiles exist too. So if anyone wants to take a look at that. So anyone else have questions? I want to open it up to the class. Chris.
I had one quick question. How do this work, like of the books that you deliver, Jesse?
You cut out for a second there. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. How do returns work, like after you deliver the books?
Yeah, great question. So anyone can return items to us here on the bus. We can check them in real time right here with the laptop and the scanner. Right now, however, during COVID, we are doing a quarantine period where we let the books sit. We have a storage. So all the books get put into a bin, we bring it to storage, then we wait 3 days, and after 3 days, then we will check the books in, just to be extra cautious. But yeah, that's another part of our service is taking returns and then bringing them all back to the brick and mortar, the library.
Kiara asks 2 questions. Did you always want to do the mobile library for kids? And then the second question is, do you travel to other states with the mobile library?
Can you repeat the first part of the question, Casey?
Did you always want to do the mobile library for kids?
Oh, right on. Yeah, I guess the answer is no. I didn't know that that this is where that I would find this opportunity. I started with the library only a few years ago, 2017, and I was kind of a substitute. I would bounce around from different branches, which was actually a really good way to get to know everybody out here in Marin. And then I caught wind of an opening with the Bookmobile. And at that point, I hadn't even stepped on board before. That's what's interesting. Bookmobiles can kind of hide in your communities. You have to look for them. We're trying to get better at getting the word out. We have our regular patrons, but besides that, there's still plenty of people in Marin that are like, what, a Bookmobile? I had no idea. I thought that was an ice cream truck or something. But anyway, it is a great resource for kids, and now that I'm doing it, I think I will keep doing it, and I love doing the story times with all the kids. Probably half of our patrons are under 15. Kids love running towards the Bookmobile to look for stuff. And then your second question was, I'm sorry, can you repeat the second one?
Do you travel to other states?
Yeah, no, we don't. California is so big. It would take us a while. It would take us like 4.5 hours to get to Nevada. That would be the closest state. We don't leave the county of Marin. We don't cross the Golden Gate Bridge to get to San Francisco. We don't cross the Richmond Bridge to get to Oakland and Berkeley. Because all those counties, San Francisco, Berkeley, and Oakland, and Richmond, they all have their own bookmobiles. There's actually a lot of bookmobiles in the Bay Area. Yeah, we don't go out of state. And actually, the license that I just got on Tuesday permitted me from doing so. It's like, you can only do this in California. So I would be breaking the law if I took this out of state. I would love to do a cross-country road trip with it, but I can't at this time.
How many towns are in Marin County, roughly? Do you know? It's pretty big area, right?
Yeah, great question. How many towns? I would put it at like around 11 or 12 towns, and some of those towns are pretty small. Yeah, probably about 12 towns.
I have a couple more questions from students. Rusi asks, where do you get your book resources
Great question. So we get the Bookmobile, we're tied in with what's known as Marin County Free Library, which is that umbrella covers all of the brick and mortar, the physical branches in Marin. So since we're connected with all those libraries, we have access to that massive amount of materials. The Bookmobile, we have our own collection. I'll grab something real quick as an example. On the side of this book, it says, it's got the Dewey Decimal, it's got the author's name, and then it says BKM for Bookmobile. So we have our own collection, which the county of Marin provides money. We have enough money in the budget to do that. But then if there's something that's not on our bus that somebody wants to read or watch or listen to, we can easily go find it from some of the other branches. We can either literally go to a branch and find it ourselves, or there's a whole system where you can put a request in, and then a couple days later, it'll arrive in the mail.
Great. And then Kiara asks, books free or do you have to buy them?
Yeah, everything's free, which is my favorite part about the library in general. We also got rid of late fees this past year, which was brilliant, because we were actually losing money by trying to reach out to people. We were sending letters in the mail like, hey, you still have these books, and it was we were actually losing money because as soon as we got rid of late fees, a whole bunch of materials came flooding back to the branches, books we hadn't seen in years. Because I can speak from personal experience. I've had overdue books that I just held on to for over a year or two because I was afraid to go back to the library. I was ashamed. Now that we got rid of late fees, there's that guilt can be dropped, and believe it or not, people return things more now on the honor system as opposed to dealing with the fear of having to pay a fine. And also, it's an equity issue. You know, a lot of our patrons. I remember hearing a story. This woman and her family, she was like, well, we lost this book, and I guess we're not going to come to the library anymore because honestly, I can't afford to pay $35 to pay for a replacement, for that book. So the more we can make it free for everyone, then it truly is an equitable service that anyone can take part of at any time. That's the goal.
That's great. Do you know when the Bookmobile started and was, offered to the public?
Great question. In Marin, I believe our first Bookmobile was 1948. Don't quote me on that. I need to double check that year. But it was one of the first Bookmobiles in California, and I think one of the first on the West Coast. But before Bookmobiles were happening in California, they were also happening on the East Coast. I remember reading about one of the first mobile libraries in Virginia and also Kentucky, and those mobile libraries were on horseback. They were not buses. Yeah. To that point, there's also bike bookmobiles now, which is something I really want Marin County to get. I would love to ride a bike with a bunch of books strapped to it. I think it's a really cool style, and there's actually a bunch of those across the country as well.
Wow, so cool. Hey, Jesse, can you explain some of the places that you take the Bookmobile to?
Yes. So we have patrons of all ages. We go out to a couple of schoolhouses. So in California, you needed to get a waiver in order to have school in session, and in order to do that, you had to have 12 or fewer students. And there's a lot of farmland out here, so there's some like one-room schoolhouses out here that had 10 kids or 11 kids, two of which we were already servicing before COVID. And luckily we're able to service them now as well because they got that waiver. And so yeah, we go to these schoolhouses and we get the kids to we bring whatever they need, whatever, you know, if they're studying the letter A, or if they're studying elephant, we can bring whatever books they want. So we've got kids as young as 5, or even, you know, sometimes there's babies that that used to come on board. Then we go all the way up to, I think our oldest patron right now is 102 years old, because we also go to assisted living facilities to help provide materials for some older patrons, which is delightful. That became pretty challenging this year with COVID, but we've actually been able to mail things, put things in the mail, old school for those patrons. So we're still connected with them. Yeah. So that, and then there were just, before COVID, there were just different stops out in the community that we would go to. So we have it all mapped out based on proximity to your local library.
Another question from our discussion board is, how can educators make better use of their local libraries or bookmobiles in general?
Yes. Thank you for that question. I would say step one is just make friends with your local librarian. We love to work with schools. We love working with teachers and students, and there's just so many resources to share. We just created something here in Marin called Book Bundles, where you could go online and just put in some basic specifications of what kinds of books you're looking for. You don't have to have specific titles or authors listed, just what you're generally looking for, and then we'll put together 20 books for you, and then you get, like Christmas, you get that delivered to you, and then you get to distribute that to your kids. Yeah, there's some really all-star librarians out here. I'm still getting my feet wet, and there are so many resources. So I just encourage talking to any or calling. Right now it's tough to go meet people, but you can just you can usually go online and find a phone number and get somebody on the line and say, hey, I'm a local teacher. Can we have some type of partnership? I'd love to participate in some type of reading program, or So yeah, good question.
One of our students, Chrissy, mentioned how she had a librarian come to the school with a mobile cart full of books and share books that way in classrooms. So even if it's not a bus or a vehicle, it's nice to have librarians come in schools or classrooms when it's safe to do so. Maybe do story time or lead an activity with kids.
Love it. Yeah, that's great.
Somebody
just saw another
asks,
question. Yeah.
yes, do you do story time on Zoom for kids?
Yeah. So I don't do it on Zoom. When COVID first hit, we started doing, there was a group of us that were doing Storytime videos. The library was posting on YouTube and then sharing with our patrons. So I did a few of those, which was a lot of fun. But there is another librarian who does live Zoom Storytime for toddlers, Alejandra. She's wonderful, and so she does that, and we promote it. But I don't do that on Zoom. We have a way, when I go to the schoolhouses, there's like 10 or 11 kids. We go outside by this tree, and they kind of set up all these different logs that are all 7 or 8 feet apart, and I'm 10 feet away from them, and then I just project loudly and read stories to them in person, which is ideal, really. We all wear masks, so it feels safe.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Does
Yeah.
anyone else want to ask questions? Opportunity to ask a question? Is the mobile library a public service activity?
Yes, it is a public service. Anyone can participate, and it's free. You don't have to pay. To get a library card, it's free. Yeah, absolutely, it's a public service.
So I did a library tour in North Providence, or not North, all of Rhode Island. Some of you might know this about me. I put it in my intro that I'm also a children's entertainer. So I did some shows promoting literacy and play in libraries across the whole state. And I really got a sense for what kind of services libraries provide, you guys. And I was blown away by the amount of classes that libraries offer, including like literacy for even adults who don't know how to read or write in English, or so English as a second language learners, or helping to connect people with basic needs. And think about it, it's free. So if you're low income, if you're homeless, if you're living in poverty, this is a safe, warm space to get free access to internet and be connected with resources. And librarians will often hold workshops of teaching real job skills and resume building, looking for jobs. And I shared with you all that I actually started attending business workshops, free business workshops at my library, which helped me write a business plan and get started with my private practice as a play therapist. So, yeah, there's just so many opportunities. And like some of you mentioned earlier, summer reading programs. So some of our students in this class have taken advantage of those when they were kids. Do you offer summer reading programs in Marin?
Yeah, we do. It was a challenge this year. We tried to create, or we did create, like an interactive online version of it, which I thought looked great, but our participation wasn't nearly as high as previous summers. Maybe people were reading just as much; it just wasn't getting tracked as much. Usually, we can see it because we hand out like a map, and for every 20 minutes that you read, you move further along the map, and there's all these different prizes and incentives for kids to read. But yeah, every summer, there's always these big meetings. Okay, let's gear up for the summer reading program, and how is this year different than last year? And yeah, summer reading program's a big part of our life. Yeah.
Hopefully someday we can partner and I can do some performances and activities for a tour of Marin County.
Yes, yes. I want to take you on this bus. That'd be great.
That'd be great. Kara says, did you design the mobile truck?
I didn't. I didn't design this one. This one was designed in 2012, but one of the lectures for the virtual conference that I just attended was all about designing future bookmobiles. I think this one's got another 3 or 4 years left to it. But you need to start designing your replacement mobile library a couple years out because it's a long process. So I'm already starting to think about what I want a future mobile library to look like, especially here in Marin. Yeah, I've got some ideas. So
That's really exciting. Any last questions or comments from students? Well, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on today. Stefan, did you have a
thank you
question?
guys.
No, I was saying no.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, Jesse, thanks for coming on, sharing your experience, and sharing all the wonderful resources that the Bookmobile has to offer. And class, I hope this gives you some ideas on how to answer those discussion board questions and what to look for when you're researching about your own local libraries.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up class here. Thank you all so much for attending. And again, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions on grades, on my feedback, on assignments. Again, I've written your name down. If you are voting on Tuesday, make sure you go vote. And you are dismissed from class on Tuesday. But I will still be here on Tuesday. If you can make it, then great. We will brainstorm about your table presentation, and I'll share more resources with you to help you with that. And but we'll keep it nice and short to give you more time to work on that. All right, so go vote. Enjoy your weekend. Happy Halloween if you celebrate Halloween. And I will see you, if not Tuesday, I will see you in a week on Thursday. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good one as well.
I'll share my email with you,
Share.
Jesse. Pass that on.
Thank you, Jesse. I will share that with the class. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Happy Halloween.
Thank you, Jesse.